We are looking at the introduction, Think and Grow Rich. We spent time last week looking at the author's preface. And again, we're looking at this book through the filter of an entrepreneur. What lessons are there here for us to harvest? If we were thinking about the energy and the thinking and the focus necessary to have an idea, design that idea, create a plan for that idea, and then bring it forward in the world as an entrepreneur, what can we pull from this book? Probably the number one book in personal growth and development. And that's what we're filtering through. If you're just joining us again, if you're part of our Future Proof program today at 2:30, Joseph McClendon. Also, write down this email. It's Rick, R-I-C-K, Rick, at paulmartinelli.net. It's Rick, R-I-C-K, at paulmartinelli.net. We put together a program. I guess I created it about a year ago. It's called Fully Resourced. It's me direct the camera for about 9 hours teaching the stickman, the 7 universal laws, all the intellectual faculties, the 5 steps to creating, 10 steps to creating a new belief, five mistakes that people make when they set goals. Pretty much my whole body of work and teaching, together with a mentoring program. If you'd like to learn more about that, just send an email, Rick at paulmartinelli.net, Rick at paulmartinelli.net, and he will give you all the details on that. As an entrepreneur, your most valuable asset is really your dream and your vision. If you think about it, we have all kinds of assets in our business, don't we? We have intellectual property. We have real property. You may own a landscaping business. You may own an electrical contracting business, a plumbing business. But so you've got tangible things. You got fixtures and equipment, and you have intellectual property. But your most precious asset, the resource that you own, that is your most appreciable resource, is your dream and your vision. And every single time, over time, I think that there are times when entrepreneurs forget that. We think that our most precious resource is our time, or our most precious resource is our money, but really it is our dream, because it is our dream that will be the filter through which we make all those decisions. And so if we look at just the very first sentence here, he says, we're looking at the introduction, we're on, page 17, line 1. He says, truly, thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. In other words, your dream, your vision for your business, whatever that business is, he says, it's a real thing. Just like the trucks, just like the intellectual property, just like your website, your dream is a real thing. And he says they're powerful things at that. Thoughts are powerful things at that. He says, but when they're mixed with definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire. So your dream has the potential to be the most powerful thing you have. And really, you should allow it to be. You are the only appreciable asset you have over the course of your life, because you determine its value. You determine it every single day. Let's look on lines 4 through 7. He says, Edwin C. Barnes discovered how true it is that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come about at one sitting. It came little by little. Personal growth is really an entrepreneur's lifelong journey. As an entrepreneur, we're in this process of discovery, and it's a fluid process. And I think this is important, is that it doesn't come at one sitting. It comes little by little. But I think as entrepreneurs, what we have to do is we have to outgrow our P&L. You see, our P&L shows us a result, and in many times as entrepreneurs, we're using our financial results, our profit and our loss statement, our bank statement, our sales report, and we're using that as a gauge to measure how close we've gotten to our goal. But it should also be a gauge for how far out in front you are in your growth. If your goal is to grow your business to $50,000 a year, and you're on track then to do, $40,000 a year, you need to get growing. You need to get growing. Many of you are familiar with John Maxwell's teaching on the law of the lid. It's the same here in entrepreneur growth. You have to outgrow your profit and loss statement. You have to outgrow where your clients are. You have to outgrow your present position. Because if you're not, I was just on a John Maxwell team mentorship call with Bron Lyde, and he said something that was really powerful. He had been working with the client, and then for probably a year or two, and then there was a period of maybe 2 or 3 years where they stopped using him as a coach for one reason or another. And then that company began to grow, and they did some acquisitions and mergers, and then they got in over their head and they needed some help again. And they went back to Bron to help him coach. And he said, I'm so glad that I had been being mentored, because had I not been being mentored, I wouldn't have been able to handle their growth. Because I grew, I was able to serve them. And so as an entrepreneur, you've got to really, when you look at your profit and loss statement, don't only allow your profit and loss statement to be kind of a scorekeeper for where you've been and how you're doing today. It should be a reminder that, oh boy, if I'm getting closer to my goal and things are growing, and they should be, then I need to have a growth plan that keeps me in front of. If you're a coach or a speaker or a trainer, you've got to be developing yourself in your own personal growth. You've got to be developing yourself in your personal growth ahead of your clients. You can only give what you've got. So here's what he's saying is that Barnes discovered how true it is that men really do think and grow rich, but his discovery didn't come about at one sitting. It didn't come, it came little by little over a sustained period of time. And it tells us that our entrepreneur journey never really ends. That if you are an entrepreneur, you have to be playing the long game. You have to be playing the long game. Now, you may stay focused on day-tight compartments. You may focus your business week by week or month by month or quarter by quarter and measure things. But in the big picture, you have to be playing the long game. Because your giftedness is going to extend far beyond your current P&L and what it says today. Let's go here on line 11. He says, when this desire or impulsive thought, he's talking about Barnes, he has this desire to work with Edison. He says, when this desire or impulsive thought first flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. He said that there were 2 difficulties that stood in his way. I wrote down here that being in no position to act is a natural state for an entrepreneur. As a matter of fact, for an entrepreneur, when we are not in position to act, in other words, when our dream is bigger than our capacity to live that dream, that's what really excites us. As an entrepreneur, we see that gap between what the dream is and the need that the dream represents, right? Because if you've got a dream to start a coaching business, the reason you have a dream to start a coaching business is you believe that there's a need for coaching. If you have a dream to start a roofing company, you have an awareness that there's a need for that service or product. But when we look at that dream and we think, what do I need to do to fulfill that gap? And we begin to kind of look at ourselves and we don't have all the full resources to do it. As entrepreneurs, we see that as the opportunity. Everybody else sees that as a risk and reasons why we don't do it. But for an entrepreneur, when the impulse, he says he was in no position to act upon it. That is the natural state for an entrepreneur. That's what we love, because we recognize that that's why most people quit. And because most people quit because they're not good enough, they're not ready, they're not committed enough, they don't have the time, they don't have the talent, they don't have the connection, whatever excuse or reason they've come up with in their mind why they can't do that. Entrepreneurs know that that's where our opportunity is, because we're willing to do what others aren't willing to do. Look at Jeff Bezos. What he did with Amazon. He was in no position to build Amazon to where it is today. But he was in a position to get a card table and some cardboard boxes and start in his garage. And see, what most people did is they looked at the longer term vision of what Amazon could be and thought, from where I am now, I'm so unresourced. But see, Bezos saw himself as fully resourced. He knew that this was a process of discovery, little by little. He didn't have to have all the answers. He didn't have to have all the resources to get started. He just needed to know what that next step. He knew he was fully resourced. Look at Elon Musk. He has changed the world. Not only has he changed the world with electrical cars, certainly we can see that. He has changed the world on how we think about the universe. I mean, he has changed the game with the ability to take his rocket boosters, launch the rocket out into true outer space, and then bring those rocket boosters back safely, reducing the cost of every single flight by $50 or $60 million per flight. Why is that important? Because getting the heavy load to the moon is what will allow us then to go to Mars. And he's found a way for us to be able to do that at an economic rate. I mean, the comparison would be, imagine flying from New York to LA, and when you got to LA, you threw away the plane. Imagine how expensive a plane ticket would be. If you flew from New York to LA, and every time you flew from New York to LA, you had to throw the plane away. That was the old thinking in space travel. You'd have these rocket boosters that would get the rocket off, it would then break and go free, and then the rocket boosters would come down, go in the ocean, ruined and lost forever, to the tune of about $60 million each. And he had the idea of, how about, what if we could bring them back safely? And now you see these two rocket boosters come back and land on top of a drone-controlled ship in the middle of the ocean perfectly to be reused. Now all of a sudden, space flight to Mars is real. It's a real possibility. But when he had the idea, he was in no position to bring it forward. He was in no position. And so being in no position is a natural state for an entrepreneur to be in. We thrive on not being ready. Are you kidding me? That's where we see the opportunity. That's where we see the opportunity. I mean, it is the story of Microsoft. It's the story of Microsoft and IBM. Look at those two companies. Just look at the valuation of each of those companies, and what's the difference? It's what Bill Gates saw that IBM missed. Buying the DOS operating system, I think, for $50,000. So when we look here on line 12, where it says, this thought, first flashed into his mind, and he was in no position to act upon it. My friends, as entrepreneurs, I just want to tell you, if you are in no position to act on your idea today, that's all the reason why you should. Because chances are, you're not the only one with that idea. You're not the only one with that idea. But most people will quit. Most people will quit because they're not in a position to bring it forward right now. So, but you and I, as entrepreneurs, we see being in no position to bring it forward as our opportunity. That's our golden opportunity. The gap between our dream and our capacity to bring it forward is the opportunity gap. And so, as an entrepreneur, you have to embrace that. You have to embrace that. And you have to do so from this idea of being this continual learner, right? It doesn't come around in one setting. It comes little by little. And this is why we need to outgrow our P&L. This is why we need to outgrow our dream. We need to stay ahead of our dream in our growth. Let's drop down here to line 22. Now again, he's talking about Barnes. So Barnes is this guy that wants to partner with Edison, right? He's not looking to get a job for Edison. His big dream is he wants to partner with Edison. His two difficulties is that Edison doesn't even know who the hell he is, right? And Edison's Edison, and Barnes is a nobody. We find later in the story that he basically appears to be a tramp in front of Edison, right? And he's got no cash to get to where Edison even is. So, he has to kind of jump on top of a freight train and ride on a freight train in order to get to where Edison is. So those were the difficulties that he had in meeting with Edison, okay? So now we go to 22, and here's the meeting. And Edison, this is Edison saying, he stood there before me looking like an ordinary tramp. So here comes Barnes with this big dream that he's going to partner with Edison. I think of this and I think of me trying to partner with John Maxwell, right? It's John Maxwell, and here's this high school dropout, janitor, speaker who's been in the speaking business for 3 or 4 years. I'm having lunch with John Maxwell, and I'm going to partner with John Maxwell. And that's my vision. My vision isn't to work for John Maxwell. I don't want to work for John Maxwell. I don't want to get a job. I want to be his business partner. And this is Edison's story, Barnes' story with Edison. So Edison said, he stood there before me, we're on line 22 and 23, looking like an ordinary tramp. He says, but there was something in the expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had come after. I had learned from years of experience with men that when they really desire a thing so deeply that he is willing to stake his entire future on a single turn at the wheel in order to get it, he is sure to win. He said, I gave him the opportunity he asked for because I saw he had made up his mind to stand by it until he succeeded. So this is Edison's account. So what is Edison saying? He's saying, look, the guy came to me. He looked like a tramp, but I saw this. I saw something in him that I see in me. I saw that same spark that I have. See, I think that's what Edison saw. I think Edison saw himself in Barnes. And so my question here, as I wrote this out, is I said, do you have an Edison in your life? Most entrepreneurs fail because they lack partners in belief. As an entrepreneur, think about what we're talking about here today. You have to stay in this place of continual growth. You have to constantly be outgrowing your P&L, always outgrowing your dream, always outgrowing your clients. So, that in itself is a full-time job. While you're performing whatever you have to do, come on. I saw Jenna in the comments. Most of us we're entrepreneurs. We're solopreneurs. We are the typical, we are the bottle washer, we're the chef, we're the cook, we're the runner of the place. If we're a coach, we're coaching people. We are our marketing department, right? And we have to grow ourselves. We have to get coached or mentored. We have to be in mastermind groups. Again, if you're looking for, reach out to Rick at paulmartinelli.net. Rick at paulmartinelli.net and join. I got a fully resourced mentoring program. Jump into it. It's Rick at paulmartinelli.net. But we've got to be in a constant state of growth. That's a full-time job in and of itself. And then we face discouragement and letdown, and people fail us, and things go wrong. Do you have an Edison on your team? Do you have somebody who sees your potential inside of you, who believes in you? Because, your dream is fragile the entire time. It is fragile. In the very beginning stages of your dream, as you share your dream with people, all they've got to do is look at you and go, they kind of look up and down at you like, I don't know if you can. That's all it takes to kind of take the wind right out of most people's sail. Because we realize, like we said earlier in the book here, is that we are in no position to bring the dream forward. So when we have the internal dialogue that says we're in no position to bring it forward, and then we've got conditions and circumstances, beating us down, and then family and friends don't support us. No wonder most entrepreneurs quit. So my question is who's your Edison? Who's your Edison? Your dream is fragile. See, here's one thing you have to understand is that the people in your life do not see your dream. They don't see it. They can't feel it. It's not their dream. They can't. I can remember, and many of you are familiar with this story, so forgive me if you know it, but I was in the Guardian Angels with Curtis Sliwa. I was volunteering. I had failed out of school. I had this dead-end job as a roofer. And then I started working as a volunteer with Curtis Sliwa and the Guardian Angels. I was wearing the red beret. I was going from city to city. But I always had that entrepreneur bug. So here I was at Thanksgiving dinner with my family. I've got my grandmother, I've got my mom, I've got my sister, my two brothers, my Uncle Petey. And at that meeting, I make this great declaration that, I'm going to start a business. And as everybody's eating Thanksgiving dinner, you can hear like the clank of everybody's fork drop at the same time, right? Just like that quick. And then all of a sudden, the whole conversation turned to how inadequate I was. You're a high school dropout, you never owned a business. My mother reminded me what my bedroom used to look like when I was a teenager. It was filthy dirty. Now all of a sudden I'm going to get in the cleaning business. My grandmother, the first thing out of my grandmother's house was, go call Ro. She looks to her son, my Uncle Petey, and says, call Ro, his daughter, Rose, who works at the post office. In other words, what my grandmother was saying to my uncle was, call your daughter, call cousin Rose, and see if she can get him into the post office. These were my partners in belief. Who's your Edison? Who's your Edison? Do you have a really good circle of people that serve as your partners in belief? People who are aware, people who understand this. People who hear this and say, right on, thank you, I get it. Outgrow your P&L. Never thought of it that way. Oh my goodness, never realized that the space between where I am and my capacity to bring it forward when I'm in no position, that's my opportunity zone. Never thought of it that way. People, if you're watching this, you get it. Most entrepreneurs fail not because they lack money, not because they lack skill, not because they lack talent, not because they lack time or resource or connection. They fail because they lack the support and belief of another person, somebody who believes in them, somebody who sees them as Edison saw him. What do we see here? What does Edison say? He said, I learned from years of experience with men that when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he's willing to stake his entire future on one single turn of the wheel in order to get it, he's sure to win. And he said, I gave him the opportunity he asked for because I saw he had made up his mind to stand until he succeeded. That's powerful. That really is. And again, if you don't have Edisons in your life, right? If you don't have an Edison in your life, I've got a fully resourced mentoring program that I think would really, really help you. It's a great group of people. Send an email to Rick, R-I-C-K, at paulmartinelli.net. Also, if you want a copy of the book, and a here to there recording and my call and my teaching notes from last week, there's a link in the there's a link in the comments. If you're part of our Future Proof program today at 2:30, free Q&A call with Joseph McClendon, so don't miss it. Let's jump over here. We're going to go to line 32, right? So we're on page 17. We're in the chapter of introduction. He says, it could not have been the young man's appearance which got him the start with Edison. Again, we're talking about Barnes. He said, it could not have been his appearance that got him the job with Edison, for that was definitely against him. It was the thought that counted. If the significance of this statement could be conveyed to every person who reads it, there'd be no need for the rest of the book. See, the power of your dream is more powerful than what's outside you. This is why I said at the beginning, as an entrepreneur, your most precious resource is your dream. That's your most valuable asset. It is your dream. See, what's inside of you is truth. What you see in the outside conditions and circumstances of your life are facts. And facts change. So the facts may be at any given time is that you don't have the connections in order to land the deal. That's a fact. But that fact changes. But the truth is that you are fully resourced, that there is a resource within you that once found and developed and applied to that purpose will fulfill that purpose every single time. And that's not positive thinking, that's universal law. So he says it could have been the young man's appearance that got him the job. It was the thought that counted. It was because remember what Edison said. Edison said, I looked at him, but from my experience, I could just feel that that the idea that he had in his mind was so fixed that he was willing to bet everything on it. And when I work with people that way, I know they will not fail. I know that they will find the resources, is what Edison's saying. And that's exactly what's saying here. If the significance of the statement could be conveyed to every person who reads this book, there'd be no reason for the book. In other words, he said, if you just understood this one idea, that the thought you have, that the dream you have, the idea you have as an entrepreneur is enough, that within that, all the power is there. Everything else is outside conditions and circumstances. Those are facts. But the real power for you is the dream yourself. He says on line 37, Barnes did not get his partnership with Edison on his first interview. He didn't get it on his first interview. Down on line 41, it says, months went by. Months went by. Apparently, nothing happened to bring the coveted goal which Barnes had set up in his mind as his definite purpose. Months went by. See, as an entrepreneur, you have to develop your inner eye. Remember, it's the long game. As an entrepreneur, you've got to see the long game. Short game looks at things as they are and says, not going to work, and you quit. But as an entrepreneur, if you're playing the long game, you're looking at this and you're saying, hold on. The truth is not in the appearance of things. The truth is not in the appearance of things. That although things appear as though they're not going in my favor, I understand that it is all things necessary for the fulfillment of the picture. Genevieve E. Rand, who was Thomas Troward's only student, who wrote the book Your Invisible Power, she says that in the first paragraph of her book. She says that when our understanding can grasp the power we have to visualize our dream and hold it with our will, she says, once we understand that, she says, you begin to attract all things necessary for the fulfillment of the picture. She doesn't say all good things. She says all things. Some of those things are great, some of those things aren't so great. But they're all necessary part of your journey. I can look back now. After being an entrepreneur, I'm now 55 years old. I started my first official business when I was 22. So it's 33 years. I look at this, and there were times where I was on my knees, I mean, times where I felt really broken as an entrepreneur. Financial setbacks, personal setbacks, people who had failed me, people who lied, people who stole, people who disappointed me, people who stabbed me in the back. Times where I blew it, I had an opportunity and I messed up. Times where, I didn't prepare enough. Times where, I wasn't focused enough. Times where I lacked discipline. Times where I made my own character flaw, my own moral misjudgment. And all of those times, those were, I mean, talk about the school of hard knocks. And, I can remember being in those times and saying, why is this happening to me? And now, as I'm living my life now, decades later, and I'm facing new opportunities, bigger opportunities, I realize, had I not had that lesson, had I not had that scar, I wouldn't have the awareness I have now. I wouldn't have the judgment, the gift of discernment that I have. And so as entrepreneurs, we have to see with an inner eye. And as he says, months went by. Months, I mean, for an entrepreneur, we eat months for breakfast, okay? Months don't scare me. Somebody says, oh, well, it could take 6 months. So what? It takes 6 months. 6 months, like 6 seconds. 6 months. I think 6 months, 6 months scare you? 6 months doesn't scare you. You're an entrepreneur. We eat months for breakfast, right? Now you're gonna tell me it may take a decade. Well, then maybe I'll reconsider something. We're playing the long game as entrepreneurs. And we have to use this inner eye of understanding. Let's drop down here to line 49. He did not say to himself, what's the use? I guess I'll change my mind and try for a sales job. But he did say this to himself. I came here to go into business with Edison, and I'll accomplish this end if it takes the remainder of my life. I think here, and there's so much more on this, on the chapter of autosuggestion, but I thought it's important that you understand that as an entrepreneur, the person that you're going to talk most to is yourself. You may have an office manager, you may have an operations director, you may have lawyers and accountants, and you may have all kinds of other people. And it may even seem like you're talking all day long to everybody. That is, the minute you get up, people have got questions for you, right? People are putting decisions in front of you. And so you're spending a lot of time talking to a lot of people, but you spend a minuscule amount of time talking to other people compared to the amount of time you talk to yourself. Chad Helmstettler had a fantastic book, has still a fantastic book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And he talks about there being 5 levels of self-talk. 4 are primary levels of self-talk. 1 is kind of a universal language. Level 1 is negative acceptance self-talk. I've got these down on notes. So level 1 self-talk is negative acceptance. This is the lowest level of self-talk. It's truly the most damaging self-talk, and it's also where most people's self-talk is, what they say to themselves when they talk to themselves. And it's, I cannot seem to get anything right. I just can't. Today's not my day. These are declarative negative statements about them. These are internal, declarative, negative statements. It's the lowest level of self-talk, of what you say when you talk to yourself. And again, as an entrepreneur, I'm a big fan of seeking your own counsel, right? Seek the kingdom within you, right? And so when I'm saying you're seeking the kingdom within you, you're seeking the kingdom within you, you're seeking spirit within you, you're co-creating this dream. I've always said that, we don't really create anything. We co-create. We work with spirit. The second level is, it's a little bit better, and it appears like it's almost neutral, but if you follow it through, it turns negative really quickly. And this is where we kind of should on ourselves, right? I really should get, to work on time. I need to lose some weight. So we're declaring what I need to do. I'm declaring what I should do. Sounds kind of positive. But when we say that, what we're not really saying is the word but. But that's what our subconscious mind picks up. See, our subconscious mind is deductive. It can't fill in the blank. So when it says I should, then our subconscious mind keeps you in the state of should, not in the state of fulfillment. So it's this idea of, yes and. So you can take an idea and yes and it. I should be spending my time this way, and yes, because I'm now going to begin doing it, right? We fill in the blank with the positive next step. Or we can yeah, but it. Yeah, but I should be doing that. Yeah, but I'm too busy. Or but right now is not convenient. Or but, my ankle hurts. Or whatever the excuse is that we're going to put into its place. So level 2 sounds like, we're making progress because we're going from what I can't do to what now I recognize as a need or as at least an intention. But it's empty and hollow. It doesn't follow through because it doesn't follow through with this yes and fill in the blank. If we go to number 3, this is aimed at kind of working for us. Our self-talk begins to work for us, and this is where we're identifying the benefit. So I no longer have a problem at work. I don't eat more than I should. I never get upset in traffic. So we begin to shift of where we can see what our problem is, and we can see ourselves working towards it, which sets us up really for, if we're not careful, automatic negative cannots, where we can say, I should be doing this, but I can't. So level 3 is one of these pivotal points. And if we make the right decision, if we're aware that we are talking to ourselves, and when we talk to ourselves, it's a sacred conversation. Because when we are talking to ourselves, we are communicating directly with our subconscious mind. It is the spiritual center of who you are. Your subconscious mind is where your self-belief is, your self-esteem is, your self-identity is. It is your heart of hearts, the sanctum sanctorum. It is where the God part is within you. It is where spirit resides within you. And when you are talking to yourself, you are talking directly to spirit. And so level 4 is really its highest level. And this is where, no big surprise to many of you who've gone through Turning Point, our language turns into I ams, right? I'm organized and I get things done. I have determination, self-drive, and self-belief. I'm a winner and I believe in myself. I'm setting my goal and achieving it. I'm a great coach. I'm fantastic at sales. I'm getting better every single day at closing people. I'm more confident when I have sales conversations. I'm every single day doing activities that generate income for my business. I'm a fantastic leader. I'm a magnet for winners to come to my company. And see, here what we're doing is we're in some of those instances, some of those things may not have even manifested. This is really the power of affirmation, where what I'm saying to myself is a future state in present tense. I'm claiming my I amness, which is really level 5 self-talk, because level 5 self-talk is universal affirmation. As soon as I begin to use level 4, I am self-talk, I move to this level of universal affirmation where I am is my oneness with God. It's an awareness of my oneness with God, my awareness of my connection to all things. So universally, I see myself as one with the source. as one with my resources, at one with my potential, a fully resourced person who can bring this forward. It's a fantastic study. If you haven't read um, the book, What Do You Say? What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Fantastic book. But for our purposes, if we look again here on page 18, he says, what did he say to himself? And my question to you is, what are you saying to yourself? Are you truly standing guard? Are you truly standing guard at the gateway of your thought? Are you standing guard at the threshold of your dream? Are you defending it and protecting it? Now, if we go over to page 29, one of the most famous stories in the book is 3 Feet from Gold. But as entrepreneurs, we want to harvest something different from the story. As the story goes, again, this is a story of R.U. Darby, and he talks about how in this story how most people quit, and this appears to be a quitting story. So Darby, going out west looking for gold, and he finds one of the richest mines in Colorado, and so they buy all this equipment. They start pouring, they start drilling for gold. They strike gold. They send it off all to the ore. It's pure, and they discover that they've got one of the wealthiest, richest ores and veins ever discovered. And then, all of a sudden, it dries up. It disappears. And they drill and they drill and they try, and then they end up surrendering. They give up. They sell all their equipment for pennies on the dollar, and the person who buys it hires a new surveyor, and they find the vein 3 feet from where they had stopped drilling. And so for most people, when we read this story, the 3 feet from gold story is a story about quitting or staying in the game or perseverance or persistence. And at one level it is. But what we want to harness is further down in the story. After the 3 feet from gold story's told, there's something more that happens. And so if you go to line 125 on page 21, he says, long afterwards. So now this is after Darby, realizes, he quit 3 feet from gold. He recouped his losses many times over. He recouped his losses many times over when he made the discovery that desire can be transmuted into gold. The discovery came after he went into business selling life insurance. He didn't quit, did he? He may have, got his butt kicked in the gold business, but he didn't quit. He went right into a different business, and so now we see that he comes into selling life insurance. Now, remembering that he has lost a huge fortune because he stopped 3 feet from gold, Darby profited by the experience in this new chosen work by the simple method of saying to himself, I stopped 3 feet from gold, but I will never stop because men say no to me when I ask them to buy insurance. Darby is one of the small group of fewer than 50 men who sell more than $1 million of life insurance annually. He owes his stick ability to the lesson he learned from his quit ability. See, most people see that the point of the stories is that he gave up. But the truth here is the lesson for us as entrepreneurs is that he did not project the lesson of failure to a future opportunity. The biblical principle of this is let the dead bury their dead. In other words, he didn't take all the negative dead energy from quitting 3 feet from gold and drag that into the future of every other opportunity. He didn't project the negative effect of what happened to him in the past onto himself in the future, or onto the opportunities into the future, or onto relationships in the future. He didn't project it that way. See, the average person cannot make this kind of a shift. And as entrepreneurs, you have to make this shift all the time. You have to make the projection shift all the time. It's critical because otherwise you will live in self-judgment. You will keep score against yourself over and over and over again. And guess what? There's lots of things to keep score against you for because you are going to fail many more times than you succeed. So imagine if you're following a thinking model where you take every single one of your failures and you continue to project those forward, that those somehow have to be a requirement in you making this next decision. You have to break that habit. A successful entrepreneur follows this model. So this is a model. Number one is you harvest the good. So you look at what could be learned here. What's the good thing? What good came from this? And trust me, something good came from your failure. Something good came from it. So first thing we do is we do 8 things. We harvest the good. The next is we learn the lessons. Let's, for goodness sake, let's learn the lessons. You've paid the price. You've paid the price. Now let's learn the lesson. I can remember when I was embezzled by one of my best friend's fathers, embezzled from me. It was, a terrible time. Talk about a dark night of the soul, the letdown, the disappointment, the betrayal, and then just the financial loss. But what's the lesson I had to learn from that is that I had surrendered the financial running of my company to someone else because I was intimidated by doing business math. Because I was living this limiting belief that, I don't understand math and I don't understand bookkeeping and therefore, I won't do it. I'm too dumb and I'm too stupid. That was my belief. And so the lesson I learned from that is that I have to. I can't give control of the whole financial aspect of my business over to somebody else and just hope and trust, hope that it's going to work out. So number one is we have to harvest the good. Number two, learn the lessons. You don't have to pay twice, but you will. You will. You may pay 4 times for the same mistake if you don't harvest the good and learn the lesson. Pay 1 time. Number 3, own it. Own it. You've got to take full responsibility for what happened. It may not be fair. And those of you who've been around my work long enough, you know how I think about the word fair. There is no such thing as fair. It's not my fault. It's not about fault. It's about responsibility. It was not my fault that somebody embezzled from me, but it was my responsibility. And unless and until I own it, as entrepreneurs, we take responsibility for everything. Period. End of story. At the end of the day, it's your show. And you've got to take responsibility for it. It's not fair. It's not your fault. It's not right. You paid other people. You relied on people. People gave their word. You showed up. You did your best. Whatever it is. You've got to harvest the good, learn the lesson that you need to learn. You've got to own the outcome. You've got to take responsibility, and then you've got to stop and say, hold on. How I do anything in my life is how I do everything. How I do anything is how I do everything. If you think about it, if you tend to be a slob, right? If you're one of those people that kind of leaves a debris trail wherever you go, and I used to be one of those people, and I had to break the habit. You could tell where Paul was in the house. Just follow all the clothes on the floor, all the open cabinets, the things on top of the countertop. I was basically a slob. And then if you looked at my car had crap all over. You look at my desk and it had piles of stuff. I was a slob. How you do anything is how you do everything. And then guess what? You get sloppy in how you manage your personal affairs. You get sloppy in how you manage your relationships. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so you harvest the good, you learn the lessons, you take responsibility, and then you look for patterns. Just as success leaves clues, failure leaves clues too. And you say, hold on, where is there a negative pattern? For me, I had a negative pattern of whenever there was something that I didn't understand, I would just give to somebody else and then just, bury my head in the sand. I was an ostrich. So it wasn't like I was delegating responsibility and then managing that responsibility. I was like giving it away, I don't trust myself. Take it from me, please. And then, I don't want to ever know anything about it. I don't want to ask questions about it because I'm intimidated. That was a pattern. So you've got to identify what negative patterns are. And then we have to release our attachments. We have to release our attachments to these patterns. Again, how we do anything is how we do everything. We become attached to it financially. We become attached to it spiritually. We become attached to it emotionally. We become attached to it relationally, intellectually. We become very attached to our way of things. We become very rigid. If you look at any really successful entrepreneur, really, if you look at them, they are like the most flexible people you'll have. They can adapt and bend. I mean, there's probably only one or two areas where they are firm and rigid, and that is absolutely, for the goal itself, right? What that vision of the outcome is, that they're fixed on. But the process to get there, you're going to find that they're very flexible. Number 6 is you got to focus on what's new and emerging. You got to focus on what's new and emerging. If you're going to break this cycle of projection, right? That's what we're talking about. How do we break the cycle of projecting our past failures into the future? Because that's the lesson of the 3 Feet from Gold story. That's the lesson. The lesson is not that he quit too early. The lesson is that he got rich later. What did he say? He recouped his loss many times over. This guy went on to become super wealthy. In other words, he had this devastating failure, and he did not project that failure into his future endeavor. So how do we break that projection? Number 1 is we harvest the good. Number 2 is we learn the lesson we need to learn. We don't pay it twice. Number 3, we take responsibility for our part in it. Number 4, we identify negative patterns. And we begin to break those patterns. How do we break them? We release our attachments to them. Our attachments emotionally, financially, spiritually, right? Intellectually. We focus then on what's new and emerging. We focus on what's new, what's emerging. Forget the past. We're not looking, it's like if you're trying to go somewhere, you're not looking in your rearview mirror to go forward. You're looking at the windshield. You would never drive forward looking in reverse and trying based on where you've been, decide how you should get there now. You'd never do that. But we do it all the time in business. And a successful entrepreneur breaks that projection pattern. We break projecting the negative into the future state. Number 7 is we go all in. In other words, we understand that our biggest risk is safety. Seeking safety is the biggest risk. Most people who retire end up really on the wrong end of their financial investments because at 50 years of age, they started to invest conservatively because they didn't want to lose. In other words, they started playing the financial game of life, not to win, but not to lose, Rather than playing to win and grow their portfolio, they got too conservative. They didn't want to take the risk, so they played it safe. And playing it safe becomes the biggest risk because there's not enough growth. In other words, they outlive their money. That's a great plan. Look, protecting your capital is a great plan, if you're 50 years old, if you're not going to live past 62. But when the life expectancy is that you're going to make it to 88 or 95, at 50, you've got 40 more years of financial growth. You can't afford to play it safe. You've got to take some risks. You've got to put your portfolio in growth. So I used, the investment field as a metaphor, but you've got to go all in on your dream. And you can't play it safe because of the wounds of the past. I couldn't play it safe as I started to build my next business. And once I left the cleaning business and I built my next business that was doing 10 times what the cleaning business was doing. Cleaning business did $2 or $3 million a year. The next business is doing $30 million a year. 10 times what that one was doing. And that meant I had to take even greater risks in the management of $30 million, in the management of the budget of $30 million. Next is you've got to the last thing is you've got to catch yourself. This is the hardest one. You've got to be aware. And this is the hardest one because we're blind to it. It is a blind spot. This is why having a coach, this is why having a mentor, having somebody who helps you see what you don't see. Again, send an email to Rick, R-I-C-K, rick@paulmartinelli.net. Get in my mentoring program. I've got a fully resourced mentoring program. It's a wonderful program. I have personal mastermind groups that Rick can talk to you about too. But have some kind of process outside of just yourself to help you catch these things. You cannot see the picture when you're in the frame. He says, when defeat overtakes a man, the easiest and most logical thing to do is quit. That's exactly what the majority of men do. More than 500 of the most successful men in this country has ever known told the author their greatest successes came just one step beyond the point at which defeat had overtaken them. Failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony and cunning. It takes great delight in tripping one when success is almost within reach. That's so good. We got just a couple minutes. Let me hit a couple of powerful ideas here. We're going to go to line 232. This is on page 25, okay? One sound idea is all that it needs to achieve success. One. If you're an entrepreneur, you've got your idea, you're good to go, you're ready to go. That's all you need. Don't wait for anything else to get ready. You got one idea? Good, you're good to go. Number two, when riches begin to come, this is line 236, when riches begin to come, they come so quickly in such great abundance that you wonder where they've been hiding during all those lean years. That is so true. This past month, I've had an opportunity to connect with some older friends that I've done business with over the years, and we were just talking about how all of a sudden and out of the blue, things just turn for them and they, boom, their business, 10x'd. And they, like when you're so caught up in the struggle, you don't see how, you don't even realize that you're at the finish line. And I described it as when I was growing up, I lived on this big hill. And in the winter time when I had to go out and deliver newspapers at like 5 in the morning, it would be dark, it would be cold. And I used to just kind of hunker down. I would just look straight ahead and I would just walk. And then, at some point I realized, oh, I'm at the top of the hill, right? I wasn't looking to my left or my right. I was just focused right, I was straight ahead, just down, just looking down and plowing through. And then I would realize, oh, all of a sudden I got to the top of the hill. And that's how success is. That's how it happens. It's these out of the blue moments. Henry David Thoreau said, If one advances confidently in the direction of their dream, endeavors to live the life that they've imagined, they will meet success at unexpected common hours. Like on any given Tuesday, bang, all of a sudden, everything you work for falls into place. Last one is on page 29. He said, this is on line 342. He should have told us that our brains become magnetized with the dominating thoughts which we hold in our minds. And by means with which most men are not familiar, these magnets attract to us the forces, the people, and the circumstances of life which harmonize within the nature of our dominating thoughts. He should have told us that before we can accumulate riches in great abundance, we must magnetize our mind with intense desire for riches, that we must become money conscious until desire for money drives us to create definite plans for acquiring it. And if that's true, and you're on this lesson with me, then we've attracted each other. We've become magnets for each other. And I'm really glad that we have. And I want to continue to work with you. This is a free lesson. There's free resources. Somebody's going to put those in the comments where you can get those. You can get a copy of the book for free that we're teaching from, so you don't need to buy anything. You can just download the book for free. It's yours. There's a here to there recording that I did of some quotes, my favorite quotes from the book. And then my last week's teaching notes, you can have those for free as well. If you're in Future Proof today at 2:30, join me for Joseph McClendon. And then also a historic killer offer that we've put together, a killer offer. If you're looking to get into a mentoring program, I've got a product called Fully Resourced that comes with the mentoring package. Also, I'm now doing private mastermind groups, something I haven't done in a long time. Exclusive here at my house, 2 days and then a year together with a group of 15 to 16 people. Send an email to Rick, R-I-C-K, Rick at paulmartinelli.net. Thanks, everybody. Be well. Bye-bye.